Hi folks, I'm Showa60, and I feel that this is now more than an ever time, sorry for the crappy wording, for me to remind you of a particular reality. As you know, we live in a generation where people are unable to keep a level head when it comes to creativity. Instead of those outside of that realm being politicians that are trying to stifle it, it's more so people outside of the government that are trying everything in their power to pretty much stifle creative freedom. For some time, I released a video onto YouTube condemning one of the many activists, well, someone acting as an activist in the gaming community. But since I felt that the very concept thereof was mean-spirited, if not something against my better judgment, I decided to delete that video. Regardless, my viewpoints in that video remain the same. And what I'm about to do next further cements that. I'm going to present to you something I found when reading one of the Mighty Atom, aka Astro Boy, comic books that were released from Dark Horse Comics. And it drives the point home, and I feel this should be the golden standard in philosophy when it comes to creating a story, whether it be a video game, comic book, TV show, or whatnot. This is something I posted in Facebook. It reads like this. Many non-Japanese, including people from Africa and Southeast Asia, appear in Osamu Tezuka's works. Sometimes these people are depicted very differently from the way they actually are today, in a manner that exaggerates a time long past or shows them to be from extremely undeveloped lands. Some feel that such images contribute to racial discrimination, especially against people of African descent. This was never Tezuka's intent, but we believe that as long as there are people who feel insulted or demeaned by these depictions, we must not ignore their feelings. Of course, the publishers were talking about, at the time, how blacks were depicted in manga and things like that. What many people today do seem to fail to understand was that just because they designed black folks or those non-Japanese or so doesn't necessarily mean they're doing this out of spite or racial discrimination. Yet one must keep in mind that Japan is one of those homogenous countries. But the message can be universal in this regard, especially in today's times when you're covering religion, sexual orientation, gender, and things of that nature. This right here, on the other hand, really drives the point home regardless of these things. We are against discrimination in all forms. By we, they mean Dark Horse Comics. Again, we are against discrimination in all of its forms and intend to continue to work for its elimination. Nonetheless, we do not believe it would be proper to revise these works. Tezuka is no longer with us, and we cannot erase what he has done, and to alter his work would only violate his rights as a creator. More importantly, stopping publication or changing the content of his work would do little to solve the problems of discrimination that exist in the world. We are presenting Osamu Tezuka's work as it was originally created, without changes, save for a few name changes here and there. We do this because we believe it is important to promote the underlying themes in his work, such as love for mankind and the sanctity of life. We hope that when you, the reader, encounter this work, you will keep in mind the differences in attitudes, then and now, towards discrimination, and that this will contribute to an even greater awareness of such problems. Okay, let me read these two paragraphs one more time. We are against discrimination in all of its forms and intend to continue the work for its elimination. Nonetheless, we do not believe that it would be proper to revise these works. Tezuka is no longer with us, and we cannot erase what he has done, and to alter his work would only violate his rights as a creator. More importantly, stopping publication or changing the content of his work would do little to solve the problems of discrimination that exist in the world. We are presenting Osamu Tezuka's work as it was originally created, without changes. We do this because we believe it is also important to promote the underlying themes in his work, such as love for mankind and the sanctity of life. We hope that you, the reader, encounter this work. You will keep in mind the differences in attitudes then and now towards discrimination, and that will contribute to an even greater awareness of such problems. Courtesy of Tezuka Productions and Dark Horse Comics. So the point in that series of paragraphs is the intentions in what they did was actually out of pure goodness and integrity. What Dark Horse did with the Astro Boy comics was leave them as is, save for a few name changes. Other than that, it's left untouched. Reason being is because you'll never get a story like this. The Astro Boy series was one of a kind. And I wish I can say the same thing for other forms of media, regardless of whether it's manga in Japan or something else. The problem we face today is fear. Fear of our history, fear of the standards back then, fear of everything. With the increase of police brutality, violence, and things of that nature, we tend to get frightened. I don't know why. But society has gotten frail. Whenever you hear someone who's not black hear the N-word, whenever you see a flag from hundreds of years, whenever you see depictions of other people that are exaggerated, which was meant to be comedic and out of good fun or good sport, being misinterpreted as something else. But I think I'm going to drive this point home. That and my cell phone is overheating. We shouldn't change everything just because it's something we don't understand. We should pay more so attention to the themes at large, rather than silly things such as why this person isn't what we want them to be in today's time. Why isn't this what we want it now? We should focus on integrity. We should leave certain things as is and create our own destinies, rather than modify it. I mean, it's good to keep up with the times, but at the same time, we should refine, not change. We should refine who we are as people, not change the outer appearance just because it's scary. We should not fear our past, and we should not fear the standards of the old. We should learn from the past, rather than remove it. So with that, this is Show 60, signing off. じゃあね。